and there'll be a chance hopefully for you to ask questions if you want, but also a chance to talk about what we need to do and some opportunities that we'll have going forward, even like next month. John, how's that for an intro?
Well, sure. I don't need much. That works out great for me. So good to see everybody. Good to hear your voice, Gary, and certainly a bummer. I think a lot of people are in the short, not sweet category with their wheat harvest this year, but better years ahead, huh? Let's see. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint share here with you. Everybody got that on their screen now? Looks like we do. All right. So it dawned on me after I had I thought I'd just get on here and wing it, and then I thought, nah, I better put a couple of slides. Sometimes it's good to be able to see what you're talking about, make sure you don't forget the points. And then, of course, as soon as I got done with that, I realized a couple minutes ago I didn't really put anything in there about what we were about, just about the project. So I think the first thing to note would just be that we're doing this project, Ogallala Commons, under the Grow Eco initiative, which is really just about Southern Colorado or Southeast Colorado. And food shed development work is just one of a couple of different things that we do. Certainly over the last several years, we've been a lot more visible in the youth engagement work and the workforce and leadership development, internships and such. But food shed development is another of the major programming areas of Ogallala Commons. And so just wanted to bring out this is part of something a little bit bigger, and at the same time all of it intertwines together, and even here in a few minutes we'll mention a couple of internships that entwine the workforce and leadership development work with food shed work. So the project itself, pretty sure we've been clear about this all the way through, but just a quick reminder that the purpose of the project is to strengthen the local and regional food system. Really our style in improving food access and in strengthening the food system is working on the producer side and supporting those who produce food. So certainly looking forward to continuing to work together and get all of your input as well. So what's the last 9 months been about? Kind of what have we done? What activities have we been up to? You guys have all been involved in the what was going to be a producer summit, which we've moved into this digital format and done across 5 calls instead of a one-day summit, which we had planned on doing. But the other activities that we were working on were the Commonwealth Academies, which is a 3-hour event that we do in conjunction with school districts to talk to their students about different assets that are available in the communities. We used that opportunity this spring before school was sent digital and remote to talk with students about the food shed. Did some surveys with students to start gathering some information about their perceptions of the food system and local food production. Quite a bit of research gathering from different data sources, the USDA and others, as well as the survey that probably many of you took part in last month, just direct to producers. And then still in the middle of conducting some one-on-one interviews with different producers to get their perceptions and their input on data that we've gleaned, on their experience using local markets, and what their perception is of some of the things that came out of the survey. It's been a little bit interesting when we got into this this project. It was initially funded by the Colorado Health Foundation as a planning grant and to do some coalition building and really start thinking about what a food shed development project would look like. Certainly when we got into that, we had no idea what spring was going to look like and how difficult it would be for all of us to get together, and even missed out on several of the events that we had planned with students in schools. So certainly we will continue to gather more data and build on what we've got in that regard. But at the same time, we feel like we've had enough conversations, and we've gotten going to the point that we will be rolling into submitting an application for implementation, which we'll talk more about some of those activities. Some of them will be the same, but activities that we would be able to continue moving into the next year and beyond. So we'll be turning in that application in August, and hopefully kind of shifting into the next year in the fall to help actually do some of the things that we've identified would be helpful.
John, you might just point out who the application is going to.
Oh, back to the Health Foundation again. And then as well, there will be some other applications to, hoping to build a coalition of funders that would help with different aspects. We have had some different foundations, the Gates Foundation, that's been helpful in some of the internships in the past. They're interested in this type of project, and as well as some local foundations that we would hope would come alongside and support different activities. But the implementation grant will be going to the Colorado Health Foundation, and they certainly will remain a significant partner as we move forward. So a couple of the things that we've learned over the last year, or things that we've looked into. My favorite I put on top: high school students think they know about regional food production, but it's mostly false confidence. It's important, I think, that as we've had these conversations, that we've talked to the youth at the schools, it's important to begin to track what their understanding is of food production and what's actually going on in the region, and what is produced in the region. And most of them, have either family or friends that, we're all touched by agriculture in Southeast Colorado, but it's a little bit surprising, the gaps in our knowledge about what's actually produced here. We produce it where you can access that food. Also, there's a gap between what the public perceives is available and is going on and what is there. Public is unaware of several opportunities that they have, and this is, of course, generalizing a lot. There are some people who are very in tune with what's going on, even though they're not producing. But generally speaking, public not aware of who's producing food in the region, and how they can connect to that, access it. And I think something that we're seeing now also is that there's been a perception, both among producers and public, that to buy something that's produced locally, you have to spend more money. And I think that's something that, just as we've seen some of the disruption in the supply chain and around the nation, as you've seen some of the different stories around food prices, that's beginning to dissipate a little bit, even though I think it was not entirely accurate what the perception had been. Producers have challenges connecting to non-traditional markets. Many of these things I think are probably not surprising to anybody on this call, and certainly not surprising to others as well. But I think it's good to note what some of those are, and to confirm the things that we believe that are accurate, and to find information that contradicts things that we believe that are not accurate. So a lot of this is not entirely surprising, but I think is still valuable. Around the challenges that producers have connecting to non-traditional markets, that's largely, I think, due to the fact that when you're a small operation, you're doing all of it. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the delivery and the actual sales, as well as doing production. And generally, people who are, and this is true of lots of small businesses, not just food producers, but you're good at what you do, and you do your business because you like it. And so producers often are really good at producing a product, and that's what they enjoy. And so the connecting to the marketplace and the legwork that goes into accessing non-traditional markets is something that creates a significant challenge for many. Be interesting to see how food markets and even farmers markets, to the degree that they're helpful, which there are certainly many challenges to producers on using the farmers market model as a way to get their produce out. But it'll be interesting to see what regulations unfold around that. So that's kind of a big unknown into the future. And then with that, I think closely connected, that next piece, it's interesting in every interview that I've done so far, one-on-one, as well as pretty clearly in the data from the producer survey, that there's a missing component, at least one, very, very clearly in an aggregator that would allow producers locally to, there's the missing piece to bring all of that together so that consumers can access that in one place at one time, rather than producers out there hoofing it to individually distribute the product. And that's, again, not super surprising when you step back and look at the landscape and players in Southeast Colorado, but I think it creates and poses a significant opportunity, I think, as we move forward to think about what that looks like, and how both on the marketing side, the messaging can be collaborative, as well as the distribution. So both of those seem to be huge opportunities and significant gaps that exist today. And then the last two are kind of go together as well. Producers are interested in cooperating versus competing. I think that's good. It's, again, not too surprising. I think that often, at least there's a perception that everyone is competing for the same dollar, that they're competing for the same sale, and that there's a limited market that's available for produce that is local or regionally produced. And that seems to not be true as far as producers feeling like that's case in Southeast Colorado. It seems to be the belief that there's plenty of sales to go around and plenty of market share for everyone, and that we can work together to cooperate in order to build that market and access it. And then producers need help telling their story. That kind of goes back to connecting to non-traditional markets. Producers grow things, and they are busy farming, ranching, doing what they do, and they're not spending a lot of time getting their story out or building an audience. And that's difficult to do on a one-off basis if you're a small operation, to build a large audience, to get your story out there. So there seems to be significant opportunity in all of those areas. I think before we go to what's next, I want to go back and just see from your point of view and from your perspective, does all of this to this point seem to make sense? This is kind of, what we've done, what we've learned, what we've talked about up until now. Is there anything surprising or any questions that come out for any of you?
I would just like to add that we had Miss Liza join us this morning.
Hey, Liza.
Sorry, I lost track of time this morning.
Well, that happens to all of us.
John, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
John. This is Dee. Just to weigh in to answer your question. No, none of this is surprising. It's a problem, and I live in a rural community, and these are still the issues. And I think that's the saddest thing for me. The high school that my children went to is also the same school that kindergartners go to. There's less than 250 children that attend that school. It's on the corner of a cotton field on a turn row. And that first statement is still true. And perhaps until we can educate that first bullet point you have, everything else under it almost seems like it's unachievable. I don't feel that way. I'm very optimistic, and by the way, this summit has helped me feel like I'm not the only one swimming upstream to try to educate people that we have to protect the food shed. But until we can get this education process out to not just the high school students, but every other American, I'm not sure what we're going to do.
It's certainly a challenge, but I think that it's we're in a time where there's good opportunity, there's interest both at an education system level and at a socially to learn about this, and I think that everything else surrounding that is certainly presents its own challenges with the pandemic, but I think that we also have a unique time to start addressing some of this, and the education piece is a good opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to interject a little bit of hope, because this is what I do for a living, trying to turn this around. And I have a team of 23, mostly young people, a lot of them AmeriCorps Vistas and Mennonite volunteers, and they're all so passionate and invested in these, addressing these challenges that are on the screen here. And the Valley Ridge Food Hub, which is the aggregator and distributor for local farmers that we've created, went from 52 multi-farm CSA share boxes to 126 this year, and we would have had more. We just couldn't do anymore. We felt like that was the most we could do. And wholesale accounts are coming back, and so I mean, there is, there is a groundswell, and I've talked to, I'm really excited to be part of this call because, I've talked to Mountain Roots in Gunnison, Guidestone in Chaffee County, Good Food Collective in Durango, and, connected over with what used to be the Arkansas Valley Organic Growers down in Pueblo as they reinvent themselves. And so I feel like we have this, kind of Southern Colorado network growing and connecting and wanting to, a really robust food system looks like, every node in the food system has something to offer and something it receives from its neighboring nodes. And I think once you have this really strong interconnected node, there is, you're building a resilient food system that invests in your local farms in a way we haven't done since we used to do before, 100 years ago, which is what everybody did. So we know how to do this. We just are up against a lot.
Thank you for that. I think it's important to take heart and to take stock occasionally and realize that that we can make progress and that we are making progress. So I appreciate that. Also, Chelsea or Daryl, either one of you, I don't have the chat showing up. So if somebody put something in the chat, because I have my screen shared, it's just not going to show up. I don't have a second screen today, so make sure and alert me if something comes up in the chat. So if these are the challenges that face us, what's our next steps? Oh, go ahead.
John, we did have a comment from Fernando. He said the messaging piece for farmers and telling their story is definitely a common challenge. A lot of this resonates with what we've heard. And he also agreed with what Deanne said.
Yes. So what's next for us? So a couple of the things that we're exploring as we move into the next phase, and in no particular order, but and other than the last one, I'm not going to absolutely promise you what these look like. But doing this sort of summit that we've done across 5 calls in person in the spring over the next couple of years is something that we certainly are planning to do. It's a wonderful time. We've seen that in the other food shed projects we've done in different regions. Bringing people together physically is certainly even better than coming together virtually. And the way that you just draw energy from each other and draw ideas and connect is really important. It's something that we believe in and is part of what we're planning in Southeast Colorado over the next couple of years. Also taking our website and social media platforms that are building a little bit different audience and a little bit bigger audience perhaps than what individual producers are building, and being able to again tie in the work that we do with youth engagement and internships and leadership development, and kind of cross-pollinating an audience between those that are maybe coming because they're interested in local food production or learning about producers, and those who are connecting to our other programming pieces, and being able to share profiles of producers from the region, promoting what different producers are doing, and promoting really the food that comes from this food shed through our channels, and really helping to support producers with that, telling their story and getting their information out there. And that's something that immediately we're actually going to be doing with a couple of interns over the remainder of the summer and into the fall, going ahead and producing some profiles and getting those put together with either some video or pictures to be able to start getting those stories out there right away. So that'll be really getting underway in earnest over the next couple of weeks, and to connect with any of the producers on this call, as well as those that we've kind of been filling pulling out a database of producers from the region. And, this is not about, picking who we promote. It's about promoting everyone who's in the region that's producing. And so that's something that will be happening right away. I guess I can guarantee that one, just like the last one, since we're going to get going on it right away. Then looking at what we're calling, could certainly get a new name, but a Taste of the Ark Valley dinners, where we would, perhaps even get a chef to produce a meal for us from, using just the food from our food shed, and be able to bring different community leaders, different community members, and to, just enjoy a meal that comes completely from our food shed. Use that as a way to, again, tell the story and connect people with what's already going on, and just kind of raise the awareness. Then some tours and field days where we could, maybe even organize some bus tours to go see different operations, and let producers share their operation and share what they're doing, share their story in person on a more intimate level. We'll continue to collect some data from producers themselves. It'll certainly be a little bit easier as we see things open up a bit more to have different opportunities to connect with the general public. Some, group settings to continue to tell that story, but also to learn from the community, understand what their perception is, understand what barriers are for them in accessing the food that's locally produced. Then from there, we plan on continuing these Zoom calls on a slightly less slightly less intense pace, maybe just monthly is what we're thinking at the moment, and that we would put together just calls for producers and those who are interested in the Arkansas Valley Food Shed, and have some learning and have some roundtable type discussions. We're planning to kick that off on the first Wednesday of August, and right now are thinking that we would just do that the first Wednesday of every month at 8. Seems like Wednesdays at 8 have been working pretty decently for what we're doing. I want to take a moment, I think, before going any further there, and just kind of get a quick pulse from you guys. If the first Wednesday of the month at 8 sounds like a good time. We know there's not a perfect time, but if anyone has a word of caution or a suggestion for a different route, certainly would love to hear that. All right.
Looks like all thumbs.
John, can
Yep.
I say a little bit more about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've laid it out really well. I would just say that one thing that Ogallala Commons would bring to this is because we're working in multiple food sheds, we know some other producers who might have some expertise or some experiences that would be helpful. So I think this monthly call, while it would certainly include everybody who's on this one who wants to be on, I would also want to include some other people. This is how we got Dee involved, and we can already hear from her that it's very helpful to her, even though she's hundreds of miles away. But there's some other people who are in our other food sheds would have something to say about regional meat processing, for example, the topic that we want to take up next month. We have an interesting idea from Alice Hill about how you would build, what kind of components you need to build for a local food shed. She's talking about 4 townships that actually exist, that are contingent in Russell County, Kansas. So I think that's where this could really be exciting. And I've been really interested to see adding, people like Dee and like Alice Hill, like Justin Trammell. We get some cross cross-pollination. So that's why I think that it would be really good to continue a monthly Zoom call for anybody who's interested in that particular topic.
Agreed. Absolutely. And as you mentioned, we're planning on starting, it seems, again, in every interview so far that I've done, as well as in more anecdotal conversations. Processing and butchering is it's a big topic. It's a big area of concern, but also represents a great opportunity. And so that's going to be the topic a month from now, is what it takes to get some local butchers back. What it looks like for processing animals regionally. And so that'll be topic number one. And then something I would love to, I've got a couple of other topics that have been suggested and that will be kind of in the hopper, so to speak, forward, but that's something also that we're really interested in hearing from you guys about what topics would be of interest and which topics would be beneficial. Certainly, the point is that there's some sort of practical help or a practical reason why you would want to show up. And so we don't want to just get together and have a conversation that's interesting on a monthly basis, but one that actually can lead to, developing the work that we're doing together. I don't know if you guys are getting to enjoy the blackbird that I've got behind me, but that's pretty amazing from where I'm at. Hope that's not too distracting to you guys.
John, is that a blackbird or a grackle?
I don't. You'll have to come see.
Okay. So, have you gotten through all your slides, John?
Yeah, I think that is it. Oh no, it's not it. What can you do, right? You gotta make sure and get what you can do. We'd love some topics and some presenters for the monthly Zoom calls. I think that's as we said, it's important to have not us speaking to a group, but our role is really bringing people together and helping to connect and collaborate. So we're really interested to hear what everybody thinks should be the topics and what would be interesting and who should be talking. We would like to, we're obviously going to need somebody to build profiles on. Yes, we've got somebody who's getting ready to get started on this, but we need to make sure we have some stories to share. And so something that we certainly need is someone who is willing to work with us and let us come take pictures and get your story out there. Steering committee, we could certainly use a few people that help us as we're bouncing ideas off about where we're going and what we're going to be doing. We will be able to add a couple of people to a steering committee even summer and fall, but that's always something where everyone is busy. We're all busy. We're all involved in lots of things, and so we're always want to kind of have a list of people who might be willing to serve in that capacity. It won't be too onerous. Just trying to get together on a quarterly basis, and someone that can help us check our ideas and put us back into line when we start thinking that we've got a great idea that really isn't that great, as well as individuals that can just help us to, I guess the quote that I always go back to is diversity trumps stability. And it doesn't really matter how good or how smart those are in a core group. If you lack the diversity of experience, diversity of opinion, of a broader group, then you tend to get narrow in your thinking and not as innovative and not as helpful as you'd like to be. So certainly it's another way that you can connect to the work that we're doing. We've got the summit or summits that will be coming. Those are wonderful opportunities for you to connect and tours. So, and those two things are opportunities both to participate, but also to help to host and to present at the summits. We like to, much as we've done on a couple of these calls, have some panels to discuss different things. So certainly would love to have people involved at the level that they feel like they can and have the capacity to be involved. And both at the summits and as we get into trying to host some dinners and things like that, we're going to need the produce of the region to showcase. So that's another way that I think is both not too onerous, but is also an exciting way to participate. Is that's what it's all about, is helping people connect to the food. So we're going to need to make sure we have food for them to connect to. So I believe that is it. So we can come off of the screen share now and see what other either feedback or thoughts rest of that prompted.
John, I want to add a little bit more, just that it might help out to connect some of the dots. So this is a great opportunity for Liza and others, all of you who live in Colorado and have the Colorado Health Foundation. I mean, this is really a great opportunity. We hope we'll get funded. We're confident we will. So that's really going to provide some opportunity. Here in Texas, where I live and where Dee lives, we don't have a health foundation. So we've had to wing this with local support. We have a small little foundation in Amarillo that gives us $10,000, and then we have to go out and match it. That's where our dinner idea comes from. So yesterday I met with our committee there, our planning committee of 5 volunteers, and we're all like, this is really a bad time. We don't know if anything's going to happen, or if we can gather, and how are we going to have 80 people like we had last year in Lubbock at the winery, and they were given $100 a person, and that's how, that's how we matched that 10,000. But it came up with a really neat idea I hadn't thought of before after we talked for a half hour, and that is this video thing is really, really helpful because we realized we're going to go back to last year's attendees and we're going to say, okay, Taste of the Llano, more than just a meal. And we're going to have a series of 5 Zoom calls. So the first one is going to be about this thing about production, because we're having tremendous problems this year. It's so windy and hot, and we're not getting any rain. So this thing about the high tunnels, I think all the people who come to these dinners would be really interested to hear a snippet about the high tunnels and people who are using them in our food shed. Then why I asked you, Fernando, about the squash muffins, it was a big hit at last year's dinner. The squash muffins, people were like, yeah, we need to know how to make these. So we're going to have a chef on the second one talking about a couple of the dishes we're going to have at this dinner, which we don't even know we're going to get to have in September, but that's how we're going to, work on it. And anyway, so we want to build with our audience of people who want to invest in the food shed, first of all, like coming to the dinner. But I think this could work for Ark Valley food shed, and Dee, I think it could work for Permian Basin too, because you already have a clientele down there that comes to your farm to table stuff. So I started getting excited about it. So I thought I'll just throw that out to you all. And that's why I think that staying in touch monthly, you may not be on all these calls, you may not be interested in all the topics, but then we keep going, because this is a good medium for building our knowledge base. I think I really, I'm realizing that. So Linnea, I was just wondering, do you think that would be an interesting topic about local regional meat processing in August?
Yeah, when John and I were talking yesterday, that's one of the topics that came up. So, yep, I'm very interested in talking about that. And there's actually another group that I was talking with a couple weeks ago that is talking about that same thing, how to try to solve that local processing issue, and they're actually looking at a whole bunch of local, like old processing plants and groups that are trying to get them back up. Most of them aren't that close to here, so I'm still interested in looking at a more local option. But yeah, that's definitely a topic I'm interested in. And then I guess in regards to the farm to table dinners, and you were mentioning like, you know, the numbers and how are we going to get, you know, is it going to be possible to even like hold large groups or whatever? But I've actually been thinking about doing something like that here, you know, just on our own. And what if we did smaller dinners, you know, that were more exclusive or whatever, but, you know, had them at, you know, different people's ranches or whatever, and they were limited to 10, you know, or something like that. And you had several of them, you know, kind of like scheduled across, and so that you get to experience that person's place and you get that like personal atmosphere. You know, maybe you could have music or, you know, some entertainment at some of them, something like that. I think that would be really cool. I think, and it also kind of gets around that, you know, large group type setting thing too. And you're going to have people that maybe, you know, if you had one in Rocky Ford who might attend up there, but like if you had one down here in Baca County, you're going to have different people attend. So you're going to reach a wider audience, I think, as well, as rather to just hold like one big central dinner.
That's a great idea. You know, we try to have 2 or 3 in Amarillo and Lubbock, but I guess burning out the committee is one of the. But they always have great ideas like, yeah, let's have a charcuterie night or whatever. I said, yeah, sure. I'm good for like 1 of these or 2 because they're fairly big productions. But that definitely came up. Somebody said yesterday, hey, what about the drive-in? Rent the drive-in. You know, and one of the things that's happening too is a lot of these big.
Like, you know, have whichever, you know, the producer, if they want to do one, you know, they would kind of be in charge of doing a lot of it themselves at their place, which would help take some of that off of you, essentially.
Yeah. Well, what's been great about it is when we couldn't get any funder to fund this, we found another way. I mean, the Tecovas did help us a lot, the small funder, but and it's really built a nice audience. But we started with 30. I mean, we didn't have 80. We started with 30 or less. So it's kind of how you can do it. But anyway,
yeah, I'm thinking in Baca County, 10 is a good number too.
10 would be a good number, sure. But this thing of rather than just trying to communicate with these people once a year, having this kind of Zoom connection more often, you know, monthly, 4 times a year, or kind of building up to our event so that they're really on board. Because we struggled with like, gosh, it takes a long time to have a panel of speakers and then have the dinner and then have like, so this video thing might, I'm hoping it will help get more information out. It's going to take some work on our part, but we're already doing it right now. I would like to use some of the stuff we talked about on these calls with this audience down here because it's something they want to know about. You know, topless high tunnels, you know, arbitroirs or regional meat processing, so on and so forth. So
you're talking about consumers being on the Zoom call, or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah.
So you have a separate Zoom call, or
that's a separate. I don't want to mix those up. That's a separate one. But again, I think they can work. You can use things from one or the other to help, because this is a knowledge base. I think that's what I've realized. You know, it was a bummer when we couldn't have this event on April 21st in Holly, Colorado. But what's come out of it is, I think I personally seen like there's some new ways to reach people, and we need to be using them, not just because of COVID, but it has provided us an opportunity to think differently about how we engage people.
Daryl, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
One of the ideas that my partner and I've worked on is we work with a couple of different homeschool co-ops, and they keep reaching out to us when they, you know, when can we come out and have another session. Typically when we do their learning sessions out here, there's like 45 that'll come, we do like a 3-hour learning session, and we have some kind of meal, or if they bring their own lunch, we incorporate something in that. And we're trying to work with them now about if they can't come, and this is county to county on what your COVID restrictions are, that we will actually do something that will go to a location where they can gather, whether that's in one of the parents' homes or one of the parents' office facilities, and they gather according to their restrictions and then do a Zoom learning session, and then they get to eat a salad that we've sent in, or they get to eat some dairy something we've done. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying, addressing what you said, your mind just spins out on what can you do to adjust, but I think that's what producers are good at doing, because we do it all the time because of weather conditions. We just adjust to it.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a huge demand right now, or we continue to see it, that they want us to continue the farm to table dinners. And there is a misconception a little bit that, well, it's all outside, so we're perfectly safe, and they want to come in large groups. I don't know what that magic number is personally for us on Flanois Farms, but we're entertaining a time in the near future where we might do small groups. And I do agree with the previous person that 10 to 20 may be doable. But we also like to incorporate a local chef that's going to be on that session. So you get the producer, the local chef that supports their business, and they choose the recipe and prepare it, and then the customer.
Mm-hmm. Good idea. Fernando or Jessica, do you have any responses to what you're hearing? Anything that, or Liza, is there something that you all are seeing that's like this, or that would inform what we've talked about thus far? Okay, Fernando, you're grinning, but I don't know if you're ready to say something.
No, yeah, we think the dinner farm should be a really good, it's anything to do with food and education. I think it's a great way to get people on board on your side. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we really like the idea of having these little kind of mini virtual video connection points before the dinner, to where instead of having a longer time with everybody on site for the farm to table dinner, you're actually adding in those moments of engagement in advance to almost prime them for, as you said, some of the food that's being prepared, some information around the farming techniques. I think that's a really cool idea and a great way to adapt and reach more people. And also those could be recorded and offered up to others who, even if they don't attend that farm dinner, that's still another avenue to reach more people. So I do like it. I know on our side, just from the chef mindset, 10 to 20 people is doable for a farm dinner. I think once you start getting to a bit more, it becomes, it's a bit more logistics for sure, and a bit more work. But I like the idea of doing kind of smaller groupings with people, a bit more of an intimate setting, more ways to really connect and develop those deeper relationships, and not try to take off more than you can chew. I think those are our takeaways. If you could hear us.
Oh yes, we can hear you. Liza, do you have something like this over in your area that you all are working on?
I'm very sorry, I tuned out for a second. Can you repeat the question?
Is there something like this that you all have already worked on with the Taproot, or with these kind of dinners? Or...
Absolutely, and we actually have done it more for the Rio Grande Farm Park. We have a 38-acre incubator farm, and what we did is we got, we have a little crew that will cook, and then we get, somebody who wants to support the park to invite all their friends, and we try and, sometimes pick our, wealthier friends. and get them to bring their friends to their house, and we come in and cook a local foods meal, and then we make a pitch, or that person makes a pitch, and they've been really successful. And they're usually less than 10 people, which really, this was pre-COVID, but it really fits our model, for COVID, to be, to have a smaller gathering, and then just have this really, and there's a nice wine or something, and we have, Vino Salida, so we have some local winery, we have a local winery, we have some local beers, and so everything is featured as local, and people really love them. We haven't done them in about a year, but we were doing them pretty regularly, and they bring in like usually 1,000 or more.
Yeah, good ideas. Mitzi, can you unmute? John was going to ask Mitzi. Mitzi, if we had we have this Commonwealth Academy, if we have it at Springfield High School, we have, say, 15 students. Can we bring half to your greenhouse in September or October to learn about local food?
Yeah, that would be, yes, that would be great.
Okay, because that's one of the follow-ups is, last year we did these in schools. John was explaining, and I said, one of the things we need to do in the next round is when we talk about local assets, but then go out and see some food shed assets. So you're one of the food shed assets in Baca County and definitely in Springfield. So being able to come to your greenhouse would really help them to get a better concrete understanding of local food production.
Yeah, that I would love to host that. Also, I wanted to throw out where you were talking about local processing. There is a local Baca County young man who is attending Panhandle State, and he's very interested in getting a local processing plant up. I mean, that's what he's going to school for. He's, he and his father have been looking at the numbers, seeing how they can make that work locally. So I would love to get y'all in contact with him.
Super. That's what we need to network.
And I'd like to add just one more thing about the farm dinners, because it just came across my mind. We know there is a school in Southwest Colorado. They have a garden, and the kids are very involved in the entire production of the garden from start to finish, all the way through till the end of the year, harvest season. I believe it's like September or October. The kids basically put on a farm dinner themselves. They prepare the meal, they do all of the marketing, they do all of the promotions. It's a big fundraising event for them, and the community absolutely loves it, and the kids are doing the work, which is really what we would love to see happen across the board.
Dee, that's right down the alley of your grandkids, Dee. You could get them involved in that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really applaud the leadership in that school area that helps facilitate that. I hope that's a picture of our future.
That is what we're working towards. And I think they have a really strong FFA program, and they're able to leverage some funding sources through that to be able to support it. It just sounds so amazing. They set up outside, there's lights, it's the kids do it all. That's the dream.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Linnea, even to connect with Pritchard FFA perhaps, or the school like that. Yeah. So Jessica and Fernando, is that I-25 behind you? What is that overpass?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
I can't hear it at all, but I just think I see the cars going by. I just wonder what it is.
It's Sheridan Boulevard. I live on Sheridan and Colfax.
Oh, okay.
So it's
That's
loud, but not too loud.
That's why it's so quiet. We're getting close to the end, John, aren't we? We got to wind up here.
Yes, I think it's probably time to wind up. I wanted to ask really quickly what school district that is in Southwest.
So it's either Montezuma-Cortez School District or Dolores School District. I think it's Montezuma-Cortez.
Montezuma has a great farm to school program and a big, huge garden at the middle school.
For some odd reason, I'm thinking it's Dolores, because I was surprised because they don't do as much as they could do. But I'll look back through my records to figure out exactly what district it was.
Yeah, that would be great. actually know a couple of people on the Dolores School Board. I'd just be interested in connecting to see how we could look at that in this area. All right, let's see. I see Mitzi's hand is up. Is that on purpose, Mitzi?
Yes, I don't know if it's the same district, but I know Mancos, over in the Mancos area. Not familiar with that part, but I know they have a really active farm to school program. You know, that I don't know if that's the same one, but I thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, Mancos is right in that same region, and they actually had a really cool garden. The school recently went under construction, so they had to tear out their garden, which was just incredible, but they're building a whole new plot. They're getting an orchard in place. It's all supported by the Montezuma Farm to School project that's down in that region. So they work in Mancos, Dolores, and Montezuma. So something magical is happening down in that region that I think could be replicated.
That's great. All right, Daryl, you got anything else in closing?
Well, I really appreciate all of you being on the calls you could have, that you were able to. It's really made the summit much richer, and look at all these great ideas we have. And you know, it's about rebuilding Ark Valley, but now we get to connect with what Liza's doing and hear from that, and then, you know, other food sheds. So we look forward to moving forward, and then you know, getting more ideas like this, so we can truly rebuild and re-energize our food sheds.
Most excellent. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your morning and for your participation and engagement, certainly. And we'll be emailing more information in advance of that August meeting. But go ahead and mark the first Wednesday of every month on your calendar at this point, and we'll keep in touch between now and then. So certainly is see you later, not goodbye. But we really appreciate everything that I think it's, as much as it has been helpful to any of you, it's been very helpful to us. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Take
It's
care,
been
everybody.
wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.